Welcome, everybody, to Verbum Day. Verbum Day is the lectionary podcast of Transcendent Truth Media. I'm sorry for my two and a half-ish week absence. I was dealing with some health issues, first neurological issues, and then falling physically ill myself. So my apologies there. We missed a few weeks. We'll try and pick them back up in the future. Well, let's get started then. So this week is Palm Sunday, or for some of you, it's Passion Sunday. But let's begin with the Passion Sunday readings, okay? Actually, first, let me just have a note on why they're a little bit different in case nobody knows. You'll notice here, I'm sharing my screen with you, so you should be able to see this. Is you only have two readings for Palm Sunday, or here in the RCL, it says Liturgy of the Palms, Liturgy of the Passion, and that's probably going to confuse some people. So basically what happened here was, back in the day, historically speaking, Palm Sunday and Passion Sunday were entirely different. However, come Vatican II, come the 3-year lectionary, by the way, the 3-year lectionary is a product of like the 60s and 70s. This is not the ancient, it's not the historic lectionary, right? And so if your church uses, for example, the LCMS 1-year historic lectionary or the Wells 1-year historic lectionary, just know it's not actually historic, because historically that 1-year lectionary that existed from the time of Pope Gregory all the way until the creation of the 3-year lectionary was only 2 texts. It was usually the epistle and the gospel. Now here for Palm Sunday, it's Psalm 118. And let me just check the LCMS 1-year to see if that's also a psalm or if that's an epistle. Let's see here. No, actually, it's just the gospel. So super weird kind of things going on here. And that's probably going to confuse you, but really that is the reason why. Is one thing that puzzles me, though, is why they didn't, when they added the other texts, they did not add any more text to Palm Sunday. And I think that the main reason for this was that they didn't want it to become its own Sunday, like intentionally, they didn't want it to. And that's because they squished them into 2. So if you look at the historic cycle, the 5th Sunday in Lent is Passion Sunday, I believe. And then it's Palm Sunday. Or maybe it's the other way around. Maybe one is, but I do think it's Passion and then Palm. But in the 3-year cycle, it's on the same Sunday, and the Liturgy of the Palms is like first, and you'll usually see it as an entrance processional, and then you have the Liturgy of the Passion. My big problem with that is, well, you'll see it right now. See, this is already quite sizable itself, right? This is decent sized 2 texts, normally sized, right? Now look at this. You've got a shorter version here. That's 1 chapter, more or less. Larger option, that's basically 2 chapters. So, right. So you see the problem, don't you? Is this better if I mirror this? Let's see which one you guys can see the actual, or whatever, can read the book titles on, I don't know. So yeah, the question is, are we really gonna be wanting to read 2 whole chapters of the gospel after having read a processional gospel of for Palm Sunday? And then you also have well, it's the triumphal entry kind of gets thrown not under the rug, but really trampled underfoot by everything else textually. And it becomes difficult to know exactly what to do here. One thing I suppose I would suggest as a possible solution is if you replaced the Passion Sunday gospel readings, those either shorter or longer, replace that with the triumphal entry. That's what I would say doing, because they're going to hear all those texts, because it goes from Maundy Thursday, it goes from the Last Supper to the death. They're going to hear that on Maundy Thursday. They're going to hear that on Good Friday. So it, to me, in my brutal opinion. This will upset a lot of people. Passion Sunday is a redundancy. It was less so, but now it's been made more so. Although it was never really necessary, because of course it's just covering the same things, except for the other readings that are done on Holy Week. Now, in replacing that gospel, though, I would keep the rest of the Passion Sunday readings. And I would also say, I'm not sure what to do with Psalm 118. Maybe just use 2 Psalms. I don't know. It's whatever. But let's get into it anyways. Let's get into the text. Psalm 118. Now, this is actually a hymn, and this is mentioned as the hymn that Jesus and his disciples went out after the Last Supper to go and sing. It says, and they went and sung a hymn. This is the hymn. This is a song of the great, what is it called? The great hymns of praise or whatever. Sorry, my mind is not working at 100%. Never is, though, really, is it? I always say that, don't I? Good cop out. So this is what's all about Christ's death and not resurrection, but rejection and his death. And yeah, so it begins here. Give thanks to the Lord, for he is good. His love endures forever. Let Israel say, his love endures forever. Let the house of Aaron say, his love endures forever. Those who fear the Lord, his love endures forever. And when hard pressed, now see, this is the idea of being pressed and crushed. You know how an olive is made, for example, under extreme pressure, they produce the oil. It's the same idea here. When hard pressed, I cried to the Lord. He brought me into a spacious place. Of course, this is a spacious place. It's understood to be the opposite of being pressed, isn't it? Right? So the Lord is with me. I'll not be afraid. What can mortals do to me? The Lord is with me. He's my helper. I look in triumph on my enemies. Now, this is interesting. People might be confused if they're just coming to the church. They just heard that Jesus is the Messiah. And then they're hearing all of these texts about obviously referring to the Messiah as the one who is helped rather than the one who helps us, because that's usually the way that we understand Christ's messiahship, as he is the one who helps us. And the problem there is you go to a lot of the Old Testament messianic passages, and it's referring to the Messiah being revealed as the one who is helped by the Lord. He is crushed, but then he's helped, and then he helps us. That's usually how it's referred to. And this also gets into vindication. And of course, when, as Paul says, when Jesus Christ is raised from the dead, he's vindicated by that resurrection. He's shown to be innocent. He is helped there. It's better to take refuge in the Lord than to trust in humans. It's better to take refuge in the Lord than to trust in princes. All the nations surround me, but in the name of the Lord, I cut them down. So this is a very Davidic kind of picture that's being put forward of the Messiah, as we would say this is messianic. They surround me on every side, but in the name of the Lord, I cut them down. They swarmed around me like bees. They were consumed as quickly as burning thorns. In the name of the Lord, I cut them down. So this is a man of war. He's coming, he's surrounded, but he doesn't trust in his sword. He doesn't trust in himself. He doesn't trust in his fellow man beside him, but he trusts in the Lord. He trusts in the unseen one to get him through, and so he cuts down his enemies. I was pushed back and about to fall, but again, the Lord helped me. The Lord is my strength and my defense. He has become my salvation. And again, this is where things get confusing for those who have just come into the church, and they're saying, well, if you're putting forward this psalm as messianic, why is the Messiah being saved? And this has to do with typology. Some would say that the Messiah is saved because of the resurrection. I think that's going too far. Really, we need to understand the relationship between the type and the antitype, the thing that is foreshadowing and the foreshadowed thing. And there's not a one-to-one relation here. So when we're looking at messianic psalms, there are things here which it's all about David, right? It's all about David. And in it being about David, it is foreshadowing that which is about Christ. And this is why, though we say all the Old Testament is about Christ, we don't want to lose the historical aspect. But we don't at the same time want to be these, again, people will get mad at this. We don't want to be doing this historical grammatical kind of hermeneutic and exegesis. We don't want to be pulling this apart as if it's some kind of historical document, which is only about David. Or as you'll hear a lot of, I know it's, when I was in my Baptist seminary, they used to always say the Psalms can be read messianically, and Christocentrically, but it doesn't mean they should be. Well, no, they should be. They should all be. It's just that we shouldn't be making that all about Christ and not about David. And we shouldn't be saying, well, it says, the Lord is my strength and my defense. He's become my salvation. Therefore, Christ is saved. And this has nothing to do with David being saved or me being saved. Or, of course, there's a democratized use of the Psalms as well. It gives voice to our emotions. That's its purpose. It's the church's songbook. It's the hymnal of the Jews, right? And so shouts of joy and victory resound in the tents of the righteous, in the houses of the righteous. The Lord's right hand has done mighty things. The Lord's right hand is lifted high. The Lord's right hand has done mighty things. And who is the Lord's right hand? Of course, it is Christ. And this is what I'm talking about. So the Messiah, Jesus, he's not the David who is saved. He's not the one who shows us how to be good Christians, who shows us how to be saved by God. If you want someone like that, you should really look at Paul. You should look at Peter. But what Jesus Christ is, what the Messiah is he is the Lord's right hand who does mighty things. He is the Lord's right hand who is lifted high. And where is he lifted? He's lifted on the cross. Just as Jesus says, I will draw all men when I am lifted high. He relates himself to that bronze serpent on the stick lifted by Moses, and all who looked to that bronze serpent, they were healed, weren't they? I will not die, he says, but live. Indeed. And I will proclaim what the Lord has done. The Lord has chastened me severely, but he's not given me over to death. Open for me the gates of the righteous. I will enter and give thanks to the Lord. This is the gate of the Lord. And indeed, so let's slow down here, right? So I will not die, but live. Of course, we're moving forward. This is this is Palm Sunday, but we're moving towards Passion Sunday. We're moving towards that liturgy of the Passion. So we're welcoming him in as a king, but we're doing so to send him right to the cross. And yet the thing is, he proclaimed here, this is crazy, because this is the hymn that they sang when they left the Last Supper, is that Jesus is just lifting up the bread and saying, this is my body, lifting up the cup and saying, this is my blood. I'm about to die, I'm going to die. And then they go and sing this hymn. And of course, he knows he's singing, I will not die, but live. Right? But he knows he's going to the cross. He knows he's going to be beaten. He knows he's going to be flogged. He knows he's going to die. He knows he's going to die. And yet, I will not die, but I will live. Because this is all about opening the gate of the Lord. And who is the gate of the Lord, right? I am the door, right? I am the door, he says, through which the righteous may enter. I will give you thanks, for you have answered me. You've become my salvation. Again, that's thrown in here again. The stone the builders rejected has become the cornerstone. And of course, we know this is Christ. This is about him being rejected by all, not just the Pharisees, not just the scribes, not just the Roman officials, even his closest disciples. When he goes to the cross, who's there with him? Nobody's there with him. He's there alone. The Lord has done this. It's marvelous in our eyes. The Lord has done this very day. Let us rejoice and be glad. And then we have it. Lord, save us. Hosanna, right? Grant us success. Blessed is he who comes in the name of the Lord. And these are the texts that are going to be cited in Luke 19, where we have our triumphal entry. And so the Lord is God, and he's made his light shine on us. With bows in his hand, join in the festal procession. And of course, this is all about a procession as well, up to the horns of the altar. And that's really where we're going, right? We're going in the festal procession, where the triumphal entry is the festal procession towards the horns of the altar, where the sacrifice is going to be made. You are my God, and I will praise you. You're my God, I will exalt you and give thanks to the Lord. And this is where we see his love endures forever. That when you're looking at all of the different covenants of the Old Testament, all of the different sacrificial patterns of the Old Testament, it's all coming here. We have broken that covenant time and time and time and time again. And we needed that greater sacrifice. We needed that festal procession toward the altar. We needed Christ to die for us, and here it is. Here it's finally come. Let's look at the triumphal entry then. After Jesus said this, he went on ahead, going up to Jerusalem, and as he approached Bethphage and Bethany, or however you say it, at the hill called the Mount of Olives, he sent two of his disciples, saying to them, "Go to the village ahead of you, and as you enter it, you will find a colt tied there, which no one has ever ridden. Untie it and bring it here. If anyone asks, 'Why are you untying it?' the Lord needs it." And those who were sent ahead went and found it just as he told them. And as they were untying the colt, its owners asked them, "Why are you untying the colt?" A colt is a young donkey, by the way. "The Lord needs it." And they brought it to Jesus, and they throw their cloaks on the colt and put Jesus on it. And as he went along, people spread their cloaks on the road. And when he came near the place where the road goes down to the Mount of Olives, the whole crowd began joyfully to praise God in loud voices for all the miracles they'd seen. Of course, right? This is they are recognizing that Jesus is the Messiah. They are recognizing that he is the coming king. They are throwing their cloaks, their coats before him that he may walk on them. And the interesting thing is, of course, this is to fulfill passages of the Messiah, prophecies that he would come riding on a donkey. And this means that he's coming as the King of Peace. If he came in riding on a horse, it meant he is the King of War. He's coming to, in the spirit of David, destroy the Philistines, the enemies of Israel. And that's really what's interesting about this, is the people were doing this without him saying to do this, right? And as the Pharisees try to stop this, he says, well, even if I tell them to keep quiet, the stones will cry out. Like, this is such a moment where no matter what Jesus did, people are going to praise him. No matter how he goes about this, the whole people are erupting with praise. The whole creation is erupting with praise as they welcome the Messiah, as they welcome the King. Blessed is the King who comes in the name of the Lord. Peace in heaven and glory in the highest. The people knew what they were doing. They were welcoming him in as the Messiah. And there's really not much to say about this, to be honest. And that's I think this is why I'm not personally so upset that Palm Sunday is not its own day anymore, because the whole kingship thing, to be honest with you, it has its place. Like, Christ the King Sunday is one of my absolute favorites, and those texts are amazing. You look at all the kingship motifs in the season of Advent, those texts are amazing. But this, yeah. It's a little lackluster, to be honest with you. I mean, it would be a momentous moment to look at, to see. But when you're reading it through, when you're going to preach it, what are you going to say? Blessed is he who comes, okay? Blessed is he who comes. That's great. Really, the text that shines here is Psalm 118 that they're quoting, because this is the festal procession, because they're going toward the horns of the altar, because they are going to go and make the sacrifice. They are going to nail the sacrifice to God to the cross. He will die there for their sins. And that's really what it's all about. Now here, Isaiah 50, verse 9, 4 through 9, this actually came up before, I believe in September, season of ordinary time. Oh, the sovereign Lord has given me a well-instructed tongue to know that the Lord, the word that sustains the weary. So it's making I'm not going to make the point here. I made it in the sermon I preached way back then. I can't get these things to, this is so annoying. Logos, if anyone works here, knows anyone at Logos, tell them to fix this. Anyways, that's broken. So yeah, I'm not going to make a huge note of this portion of text here, because this is all about the efficacy of the word, the creative word, the performative word, and that's really not in the theme of the lectionary here. And this is, again, something that I'm always saying, and you guys hear me talk about it all the time, is I really believe that we need to be preaching the lectionary as a whole, not saying, what text am I going to preach, and then picking one out of it and then preaching it expositionally. I don't think that's a very good method to be using if we're using the lectionary. Expositional preaching, if you're doing lectio continua, very fine, very good. But it doesn't really, it's a missed opportunity with the lectionary. And if you start to do that, your congregation will know, because they know how you're using the text, even if it's at a subconscious level. and they will start to, or stop really paying attention to the other readings, as in questioning how they all fit together and doing text-to-text relations. So for that reason, just skip over this. Know that this is all about the efficacious word, the creative word, the performative word. But what we're really looking at here is, I have not been rebellious. I have not turned away. I am the lamb who goes to the slaughter. I offered my back to those who beat me. This is very Isaiah 53, right? My cheeks to those who pulled out my beard. I did not hide my face from mocking and spitting. This is the idea of turning the other cheek, right? You hit me on the one side, I'll let you hit the other, right? Because the sovereign Lord helps me. And there's that theme again from Psalm 118. The Lord helps me. I will not be disgraced. Therefore, I have set my face like a flint. I know I will not be put to shame. He who vindicates me, again, I brought this up earlier, is near. So he is going to be helped. He is going to be vindicated, as some would. And again, I'll say it again. I think it's going a little bit too far, but fair game if you're going to do it. The Lord saves the Messiah, right? He saves him from shame. He saves him from the pits of Sheol. In a sense, he resurrects him. Again, I'm not going to go that direction. That is too, I am thinking this is too far. Just leaving it there for you if you wanted to do it. Who then will bring charges against me? Indeed, the matter of the fact is, Jesus, after he was killed, all of the people who were crucifying him said, and Judas too, said, this is an innocent man that I betrayed. He went and hung himself. You see the centurion, surely this man is innocent. Everyone's saying, surely this is the Son of God, because the temple veil is torn, the skies go black and dark. It's crazy, it's epic, it's insane. And who's going to bring charges against me? Who is my accuser, right? Nobody, because I've been vindicated by my resurrection, Jesus says. It is the sovereign Lord who helps me. Who will condemn me? Nobody. They will all wear out like a garment. The moths will eat them up. Now, Psalm, we have another Psalm here. Be merciful to me, Lord, for I'm in distress. And this is if you want to deposit the salvation and the messianic, the helping of the Messiah, it comes because he's in distress. And why is he in distress? Well, it's not because he's fighting the Philistines. It's not because he's fighting the Romans and having a struggle. It's because he's dying. It's because he's in the woes, the throes of death. And my eyes grow weak with sorrow, my body and soul with grief. My life is consumed with anguish, and my years by groaning. My whole life has been suffering. All I've been doing is suffering, and now I'm here on this cross, breathing my last. There's nails in all of my limbs. I'm stuck to a tree that I have created. Do you understand the whole weight of the situation? It's not small. It's not that Jesus died and he shouldn't have it. Even still, right, even if it was, it's an insane amount of physical torture. But like even just don't focus upon that. Understand that all of this is poetically painting the picture of his divine spiritual suffering, because the Father turned his face away, because it pleased the Father to crush him, because really the cry of dereliction was not a lie from Jesus. It was true. My God, why have you forsaken me? And I know a lot of people, Baptists for some reason, always like to say, well, he's not really saying that. He's just quoting a psalm. Yes, he's quoting a psalm because he actually feels that way. I don't understand why they're saying that. Anyways, my strength fails because of my affliction. My bones grow weak because of all my enemies. I am the utter contempt of my neighbors. He really was the utter contempt of his neighbors. And there's really nothing like this. One of the beautiful things, and maybe it's an ugly thing, to be honest with you, I don't know how you would posit it, is if you preach textually. I preach very textually. I know a lot of Lutheran pastors, and this is a gripe I have with a lot of you Lutheran pastors, is you don't preach textually. You read the text and then you start telling some stories and illustrations and jokes like no one cares. Anyways, is Passion Sunday. It already says everything you can say. You're just going to be rephrasing things, and there's really almost no preaching to do other than to say, and this is for you. All of this is for you. But really, especially with the sheer amount of text and the explicit nature of the text, it really does preach its own sermon. It is its own sermon manuscript. Just read all the texts and let them stand, and then say for you. And there you go, you have your sermon, right? I am forgotten as though I were dead. I have become like broken pottery, for I hear many whispering terror on every side. They conspire against me and plot to take my life. And they did. That's exactly what happened. But I trust in you, Lord. I say, you are my God. My times are in your hands. Deliver me from the hands of my enemies, from those who pursue me. Let your face shine on your servant. Save me in your unfailing love. So again, just to put it into perspective again, the typology, the nature between the relationship between David and his suffering and Christ and his suffering is obviously they conspired against David's life to take it. They failed. They conspired against Christ's life to take it. They succeeded, but only because he laid it down. Philippians 2, 5 through 11. This is a beautiful text. This is about the lowering of God into humble death, right? And your relationships with one another have the same mind about you as was in Christ Jesus, who being in very nature God did not consider equality with God something to be used to his own advantage, right? But he made himself nothing, taking the very nature of a servant, of a slave, being made in human likeness, being found in appearance as a man, being humbled by becoming obedient, even to death, even death on a cross. And we'll stop there, because all of this is about the vindication. And you can do that if you wanted to, because there are enough texts in here about vindication. You've got that in Psalm 118. You've got that in Isaiah 50. You've got that in Psalm 31. But really, I think the nature of the day will be captured better if you stick with these verses here, up to verse 8. So it's the intersection. So where all of this is going is back to, if you recall, I think it was first Sunday in Lent, where we had the temptations of Christ in the desert. And I was talking about how really we focus upon so much like the kinds of temptations, or how this is an example for our own fasting. But what this is really doing is 3 ways in which Jesus was not willing to exploit his divinity, to take advantage of his equality with God, as the NIV says, for his own comfort, for his own well-being, to save himself, but rather he was letting it all go, giving it all up for the moment to die for you, right? Not only did he give up his own, high exalted divine privileges in the heavenlies, to come down into the form of a literal baby who needed to be fed by his mother and rocked to sleep and all of these things, but suffering. He took on the infirmities, the suffering of sin that he didn't need to do, because he wasn't a sufferer or a sinner himself, all the way down to being mocked, to being humiliated, to being obedient, even to the death on a cross. So he goes lower still and lower still and lower still and lower still, all the way down to the grave for you. So, and the Gospels, these are super long. I'm not going to read them, guys, but this is the whole Passion narrative. And all I'm just going to give a little bit of a kind of a sweeping comment here, is that with let's just look at the shorter version here. Or actually, yeah, you know what? Let's take this. I assume I'm saying everything other than Maundy Thursday, all the way from Jesus praying on the Mount of Olives, all the way until he dies. Okay. When we look at this, what we're looking at is what we have invited Jesus to be the king of, and how he is to be that king. We have invited him down to die. This is his triumphal entry. It's the triumphant entry of the greatest loser, who takes victory through his own defeat. And it's through his death that life comes, right? It's through his defeat that his victory comes. It's through losing that his triumph comes. Do you see where all of this is going? So it's again, this great reversal that Jesus loves to play with, not only in his speech, but literally in his life, and his whole messianic goal and mission. So that's really all I'll say here, is that when you're bringing together Palm Sunday and the triumphal entry together with Passion Sunday, you have a beautifully grotesque juxtaposition and contrast between the glorious exaltation of the king and him being crushed and pierced at the cross to death. And so in kind of a hilarious play upon Christus Victor as that motif, you almost have really a triumphant loser here, right? You have the king who is just as Isaiah, as Psalm 118 said, and I love this so much. We are in the festal procession. This is the triumphant entry, right? Going to the horns of the altar to make the sacrifice of our King and our God. So let's leave it there, folks. And we'll have a blessed Passion Sunday, have a blessed Palm Sunday. And yeah, I hope you guys have a blessed Holy Week coming up. It's going to be fun. We've got a couple articles for Transcendent Truth coming out for Holy Week. You've got a special Holy Week and Easter episode. We've got some other things like that coming. So, and of course, several Verbum Day episodes, Monday, Thursday, Good Friday, Holy Saturday, Easter Vigil, and then Easter twice. So it's going to be crazy. Anyways, God bless you guys. Have a good Sunday.